Hello, everyone, and welcome to Market Pulse with NFT18, where we analyze and break down the latest market trends, cool projects, and sales with Zoup, co founder of Non Fungibles and the advanced analytics studio NFT18. Zoup, thank you so much for joining us once again today.
Thank you for the invitation once again. It's always a pleasure.
Really hyped up to talk about what you got cooking nowadays. An interesting aspect to what you're doing with your studio. Before we hop into that, could you just give everybody a reminder or a brief introduction on yourself and NFT 18?
Yeah, sure. So I'm personally, let's say, market researcher since 2018. That's basically how I entered into NFTs. At that time, it was not really a thing, and then I think I've been the first guy to publish market reports about NFTs. It was about Decentraland at that time, and since we haven't really stopped publishing, analysis and trying to decrypt what is at stake, what are the good practices, what are the upcoming trends, all these things. And so I do that for now almost 6 years. And with NFT 18, which is my new company, we are really focused on helping anyone that would like to launch NFT or enter this Web3 industry, just to know what are the good practices. So just get rid of the hype, get rid of all the myths and legend around NFTs, and really base your strategy on actual success. So our role is to decrypt the success and to show everyone what is really at stake behind the magic.
Very cool. Yeah, and I always mention because I love to see it. Those OG pictures of you at what looks like a hackathon, right? Like a room. It looks like a high school room or something. There's like six people intently watching you point something out
Yeah,
on a projector at the time. My what that looks like now versus then is wild to think about, right? And that's a fast turn. That's a fast
yeah.
evolution here of this space. But great to have you. A giga brain, as everyone knows in the space, but also really embedded. I see you on there playing in some of these metaverses and in some of these Web3 games as well. So that always is something that we like to see in the community. So you started a bunch of analytics studios. You pivoted to this one. You're doing some amazing work. We talked before about how it's very nuanced and you get more into the weeds than what you can see at a lot of more superficial market read places. And
Mhm.
what was really cool to see is you started kind of dropping some tidbits of things you were doing on some very focused projects, right? So it looks
Yeah.
like you've kind of taken an approach of let's also find things that happen in the marketplace that were unique or interesting, and what can we derive from that that could be good learnings for creators, for collectors, for everyone in this ecosystem. So it's very cool to see someone take a more you know a deeper dive, so to speak, into the things. And um, I noticed that we touched on it last week. There was an interesting project that had kind of surprised a lot of people with the sales
Yeah.
volume. I'll let you talk more to it, but you guys have finally fleshed out and published the full report. And I was surprised at some of the stuff that was in there. I was so surprised at some of the stuff that was in there on
Likewise.
this nobody drop that had happened, and just
Mhm.
the massive sales volume. Before we get into the report, could you just color quickly when this happened, what happened, why it was so eyeball popping?
Yeah, so definitely, just maybe to begin with, about the approach, as you said, it's really way more in depth than everything else we've done so far. But on the other end, it's as well a little more broad. It's because we discovered that if you only look at data, it's not enough. You just learn
Right.
about what happened on chain, which is cool, but not enough to really understand what's going on. So that's why we decided to really spend the necessary time to go through all their social media, all their marketing actions, everything they've done on YouTube, on Twitter, on all of the networks, just to get a complete picture of, oh, they arrived to these figures on chain because they've done all this stuff before. And so, why this project has been picked? The first thing is that, as you probably know, we do scrap all the NFT activity on chain. So we've just discovered this project in our database, and we're like, oh gosh, what is this? I mean, that's a lot of volume. That's a lot of dollars traded. And we, to be honest, we haven't really heard about that before. And after like 1 week, it was something like 8,000 ETH traded. We're like, okay, there's something going on that we haven't captured yet. So we decided to have a really in-depth description of why this project that no one has heard of has made so much money. Is it pure wash trading? Is it something else that we don't understand? And so that's why we started to just look at figures on chain and then to really capture the whole strategy. And just something I want to precise. First thing, we don't own any assets. We don't have nobody. So we are not shilling a project. We're not pumping our bags. First thing. The second thing is that we are not in touch with nobody. We have not been paid by them. We are not, this is not a promoted content. And we did that in complete independence. So that's really important to say before.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. We have none as well. In fact, I learned about it when you brought it up, and then I was astounded that I didn't hear about it, given the sales volume, something like 13,000 ETH very quickly changed hands. So essentially, you guys are deep into the analytics, but also then said, let's layer this on with what we can understand from a fundamental analysis perspective. Having the ability to look in retrospect and kind of tie it in real time what had happened and kind of do a case study on it and get some of the learning. So we talked about it before. I know you published your full report. I'm going to hand it over to you if you don't mind, Zoup.
Sure,
And maybe you could take us through kind of the process and how you put it all together.
Definitely. So is basically the report as you can find it for free on nft18.com. We decided to publish that for free because we think it's really important for everyone to just get a grasp on what are the good practices today. And it's not, I mean, we don't do that to make money, to be frank. This is more like education content. So this report has been, we started working on that like 2 weeks after the launch of a project. So there's a complete summary, but so let's get to the basic information. So that's everything about us. You probably already know who we are. So let's get about what this project is. So they had 10,000 NFTs. They sold out in a couple of hours, like 2 to 3 hours. They basically sold out. The sale occurred at the really beginning of February, so 4th of February. And basically, we estimate that they've made about like between 4 and 5 million, probably more close to 5 million. So 1.8 thousand ETH total turnover just for them. Because the assets were not free. It was nothing like, free mint, free claim, whatever. No, everyone paid about like 500 crowns, 500 bucks, sorry, to get an NFT. They sold out, the copyright was not granted, and interesting thing, that's a project based in Hong Kong. From what we've heard, the studio is probably based in Malaysia, but it's quite hard to find this information, to be frank. The most interesting thing is about the sale mechanic. I will definitely give you more detail about that, but it was basically a deposit system plus a whitelist, and then you add a public sale. So that's really interesting because the combination of these three things, deposit, whitelist, and then public sale, really had an impact on the secondary market, which is honestly, I think, quite smart. So yeah, they are like, let's say, basic PFPs, let's be frank. They look like a lot of others that we've seen. So for, I would say, Western countries, there is nothing like revolutionary in this project from at least a design standpoint, and even in terms of utility and value proposition. We'll talk about that.
Okay, before we move on, I just had a question for you on the sale mechanic. So people had to pre-deposit and basically say, I not only do I have the funds available, because there's often projects that will say, hey, we'll do a wallet check. In order for you to get whitelist, you have to have a certain amount. But this actually took the money in advance. in
Yeah.
advance, and then I would assume refund if you
Yeah.
didn't get it. And that probably has an impact on secondary. Well, we could talk about that in just a bit. But interestingly, here in the West, we've seen it a few times with protest, right? Though they've been successful drops, I can think to often some high profile ordinals mints that had to do it
Mhm.
that way, just because of where they're at as far as methodology. There, I think the D Gods mint is one that comes to mind. There was others as well
Well,
that did that, and there was a lot of pushback, and those were for fairly limited, right? Fairly limited drop in supply. So
mhm.
was I'm just I'm astonished that, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be, but it's not something I would have thought beforehand, right? Like 10,000 people would sign up and just have faith. Let me send you my money.
The cool thing is like it's not like 10K people, it's like 16K people.
Wow.
Way more than expected. And the thing is that you had to be whitelisted. I mean, I will go to that because it's a bit complex just to explain. So I will describe that. But yeah, this mechanism, honestly, to be frank, is the first time I see something like that on Ethereum for such volume. And to be honest, for such volume at all. I haven't seen this kind of mechanism before for a 10K collection. I may not know all the drops. Let's be honest.
Right, right.
So the first thing, usually when you have a success, the first thing you look at is who is the founder? Is he famous or not? And usually, if it's successful, it's usually famous. So Stephen Chow. So I look at that guy. To be frank, I didn't know the name. And then I look at what he's done. He's a world famous Hong Kong actor, director, and producer. Is basically he has been playing in a lot of movies like Crazy Kung Fu, Shaolin Soccer. You probably know these movies and a lot of others. So and even recently, I think it's on Netflix, The Monkey King. So yeah, he has a massive track record, and he has about 2 million followers on Instagram. So
Wow.
it's quite influential. But the funny thing is that the studio, Moonbox Lab, absolutely completely unknown. Their website is currently not available. So it was like we are rebuilding the website when I tried to look at it, and now it's just down. There is no website. The Twitter account has like 75 followers. So it's super weird because they raise funds, we'll get to it, but the website, the company doesn't really exist. And the design has been made by an undisclosed artificial intelligence. So it's like, okay, so there's something a bit weird about this two part of the project, to be honest. But what else?
So the pull, I mean, so it sounds like the pull and the appeal to people was having something associated with Stephen Chow. Is that it? Versus the
Yes.
IP? Is this an existing IP that's been in the works, or is this something
No.
brand new they spun up?
Brand new. Brand
Okay.
new. Nothing existing. It's like Stephen Chow being like, hey, just look at that. It will be fun because I'm Stephen Chow.
Okay.
It's basically it. So I will not enter into the details, but yeah, they had the smart contract has been audited by MetaTrust. They published the link to the audit and so on, which is nice. Oh, by the way, this link is broken. Anyway, so the about the utility. So that's the storytelling. Let's just spend 1 minute on the storytelling. So we encourage everyone not to be limited by their identity, status, and any other labels. Set the stage for everyone and let, let their talents to shine. There's something wrong in this sentence, right? And the talents to shine. And I mean, if you look at that, let's be honest, it doesn't say anything. It's just like, okay, we have like a good philosophy, good vibe about being someone, but everyone is a nobody, but being a nobody is no big deal, this kind of things. The actual utility, when you look for the utility, basically you get a chance to become part of nobody, okay? And you will participate in the project's development, enjoy many privileges, including but not limited to proposing, co-creating, voting, and creating with nobody IP. Let's be frank, that says nothing.
Right. I was gonna say there's a lot of ambiguity there, right?
Nothing. It's
Um,
complete empty.
yeah, wow.
So yeah, I mean, but to be frank, we're like, okay, so right now we don't really know what is the utility. So what I get as a vibe is like, okay, there's a little bit of philosophy, which is cool, but mostly it's like I'm Stephen Chow. I do a lot of movies and series, so trust me, you will probably be able to play a role or do something or vote for one of my upcoming movies, but nothing clear, nothing.
Before we move on, a quick question for you. I
Yeah.
mean, we know, especially in the peak of the last bull cycle, there was a lot of people from Hollywood. There was some that were genuinely interested and embedded in the culture and the movement, but there was a lot that just got pulled along and said, this is an opportunity to make some funding, some money.
Mhm.
And they kind of on a tertiary, like some agency signed them up and they slapped their name on some, you know, alleged collectible and then were never heard of again. Uh, and on the flip side, there were a handful of people who were genuinely engaged and did it of their own volition. It was their project. They wanted to do it and they were vested in the success. Do you have an inclination into which one of those this is? Like, is this driven by Steven or is this like an agency said, hey, let us use you to try to do this project?
It's a super good question. To be honest, I'm not completely sure. What I can tell you is that the studio raised money from OKX, probably I guess from Animoca and from a couple of others funds. I'm not sure about Animoca, but OKX sure they raised a couple of millions in August last year, and they have no track record that I've found, so I feel like they've raised money specifically to launch this project. They've, from what I know, haven't done anything before, but Stephen Chow has been really active promoting the project. So I feel like he is really involved, and it's not like you know just slapping a name on a project. That's my feeling so far.
Okay. Yeah, and OKX has I think it's a surprise to a lot of people when they talk about the sales volume and activity they have there. They've definitely grown to be a powerful player, especially in that
Oh,
market.
yeah, honestly, OKX is it is way bigger than I initially thought, to be frank, and they are really involved into NFTs, specifically in Asia.
I don't mean to digress too much, but it's an
No.
interesting question. Binance, was one of the early exchanges to try to dip their toes into NFTs. In fact, we had a co-curated drop with them early in the last bull cycle
Mhm.
for the markets. They never really had the same traction that we're seeing over at OKX. I'd be intrigued as we continue to watch them to learn what the key differentiator was. How did OKX approach the market to be as successful as they are? Because we're not seeing that across other exchanges, even with bigger scope and the same
Mhm.
geographic reach.
To be completely honest, I don't know. I don't have the answer right now about that because it looks like they do basically what a lot of other exchanges do, but yeah, maybe they have the right connections because I feel like there's a lot of influence in just getting in touch with the right people.
Right.
Just,
Yeah.
that would require a complete report, I guess.
I yeah, no, and I think I don't know that you have an answer, but just something I'm thinking of. Probably their approach to the market. I think certainly when Binance first came,
Yeah.
training the consumer is important, right? If your consumers aren't already involved in the ecosystem. So
Yeah.
I'd be keen to look into that more myself over time, how OKX approach the marketplace. But anyway, sorry for digressing, but you have so many interesting things that come up when we discuss these.
Yeah, it's all good. So yeah, I think one of the interesting things, as I said, is basically the drop design. So how does that work? How did they solve their stuff? So on the 10K NFTs, part of that, like 5%, yeah, 5% was reserved for the investors, nobody team, friends and family, community and development. Quite common, nothing to say about that. It's really traditional. We looked at that. We can tell you basically who they are and what they've done with their assets. We have some insights about that. The rest was for sale. And basically, what is the process? From September to January, you had a lot of opportunities to get on the whitelist. So, classic like community raffles, quick social media quests, stuff like that. They probably booked a couple of whitelists for their friends, stuff like that. So that's how they did things. So build the whitelist during like 3-4 months, something like that. And the whitelist, from what we've seen, was basically completed basically by the end of January. So end of January, it was over. Then you had to deposit funds from the 1st to the 3rd of February. You had 3 days, no, sorry, you had 48 hours, so 2 days, to deposit the funds. And so really you put the funds and potentially you would get a refund if you don't win the raffle. As it was not an over-allocated whitelist, every whitelisted wallet that put the funds knows that they will get the NFT. On the other end, for the non-whitelisted wallets, you had to be lucky. And there was a raffle for the non-whitelisted wallet that did the deposit. And after that, basically, you get the raffle and the airdrop for the whitelist wallets that made the deposit. And you can only get one NFT, no more than that. And if there was any supply left, the non-whitelisted wallet were basically battling in a raffle to get the remaining supply, which was 500. Only 500 of the 9,500 were available for the non-whitelisted wallets.
And that went into a raffle or the open market?
Raffle.
Okay.
So raffle. So non-whitelisted plus deposit. So I will give you the figures. They had one chance to be selected and receive the NFT, one of these NFTs. And if not selected, you get a refund. And it took like a couple of days or weeks to get the refund. It took a bit of time, but the refund. So now let's get to the core of the machine. If you're ready, that's how it looks. And I think, to be honest, that's probably the one thing you have to remember about this drop is how they organize things. What are the main steps? Why they did that in this order? Because that's honestly a really, really good playbook, mostly based on influence. They raised money in July. They raised 2.5 million at a 50 million valuation by OKX Venture. Oh gosh, there's a couple of
when you say raise money, it's the company, like the IP, the Nobody Project, raised money and said, hey, this is what we plan to do. So they did a fundraising round before they went public with their NFT offering? Or is it for the project? I'm just trying to understand the fundraise. Typically, that would be for a company that has plans to do multiple things. Is the core competency of this company just NFT drops, or is it supposed to be a media company or something else?
So they definitely present themselves as a studio that has other plans. But I think that they were talking with Stephen Chow, or Stephen Chow is part of the company one way or another. I don't really know. But the thing is that they had two things at the same time. They had the license to use Stephen Chow films and IP rights as NFTs and get the valuation at the raise at the exact same time. So I think that basically, if they didn't get the funds, they probably wouldn't have a license. It was probably like, okay, I'm okay to work with you guys. You will get my license if you get the funds to develop a project.
Okay. And
That's my
it
guess.
almost, and my head's wrapping around this, but the structure almost sounds similar to me like an IDO or something, right? Like a token would work with an exchange and say, I'm going to launch this. They would incubate it, make a small investment into the company. The exchange then has vested interest in its success and really platforms it. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
that's a playbook, not, if you're just working on your small indie NFT project, maybe that's doesn't seem as attainable. However, maybe you could scale that up and down in different ways and try to mirror how that leveraged some success. So interesting. So sorry, I keep wrapping my head around this as we go, Zoup.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, that's basically the foundation of all of this is they raise funds. Then the first first marketing highlight was the creation of their social media. So Twitter and Instagram, so X Instagram, sorry, created like in August. Then Discord has been created and set up in September, end of September. So you see that there's a lot of empty time there. So really, we were not in a hurry. So August almost nothing, September almost nothing, and then we start the real plan here. So basically, at the beginning of November, they start the collaboration with social media influencers, quite discreet, nothing super crazy, like a couple of them. And the whitelist started. So whitelist started in November. Then a lot of whitelist campaign, including one via amint.xyz, one of his traditional whitelist builder raffle stuff. Then that's where it starts to be really, really funny. Because to be frank, there's nothing really interesting there in November. That's super, super basic. Then they've created a video clip with a music called Nobody by MC Gene. I don't know him, to be frank, but has about 500,000 followers on Instagram. And Stephen Chow shared that on his own Instagram to his 1.5 million followers. And that's the beginning of Stephen Chow basically advertising for the project. Once it did that, they really started the massive, massive communication because they announced the big partners in really the beginning of January, like the nine big partners. I will focus on that right after, like Mocaverse, OKX, Memeland, and others. So that's a complete audience of about 5.4 million people reached just with the launching partners. That, of course, helped building the whitelist. And we'll spend some time talking about that. The unique numbered physical golden cards signed by Stephen Chow and sent to a handful of ultra VIPs. This is basically what, in my opinion, made the success of this drop, because all of that is quite basic, efficient, but quite basic. This is massive, and they had a super huge reach out of that. Yep.
There's a practice that we've seen crop up where people send, say, a PFP collection launches, or say, for example, Node Monks, which launched recently on Ordinals. They had honorary versions of their PFPs that kind of looked like the influencer or whomever, the celebrity that they had sent it to. And so they say that that person is now vested in the success, or they can flex if they want. So some similar playbook there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To be honest, I don't know if they received an NFT. They probably had the opportunity to, but it has not been communicated, and I haven't found any of these superstars with an official wallet, owning the NFT or shilling about, hey, just look, I got the NFT. So they probably just got a physical card.
Oh yeah,
And
I wanted to mention that if I pop onto their Instagram, I'll show it really quickly because I have it up. That's one of the emphasis that they have, right? Are these tie-ins to physical. So it looks
yeah,
like, like he sent them something that would be an autographed collectible or a unique collectible, and
yeah,
that got
exactly.
them excited about, hey, look what Steven's doing. This is his project. And kind of, I'm sure it helps to have that kind of star power to drive some excitement. But certainly there are artists, that people be excited to receive as well. So yeah, the physical component I found interesting.
No, absolutely. And to be honest, it's something that is really nice because it's probably hasn't cost anything, but due to Stephen Chow and his connections, they were able to reach to all of these people. And all these VIPs were like, actors, directors, people that have a huge community. So honestly, probably super cheap, but super efficient thanks to a massive network. He changed his profile picture on Instagram, of course. a couple days before the drop, something like yeah, 10 days before the drop, it changes profile picture on Instagram. And so on the 25th and on the 1st of February, you had the opportunity to deposit your funds. One thing to remember is that the Chinese New Year was during that period of time. So there's a lot of communication around you are someone, don't worry, being a nobody is important, everyone is a nobody. So a lot of, let's say, good vibes related to the Chinese New Year and to a lot of these values related to that. So I don't know the Chinese culture really well, to be completely honest, but from what I've understood, it was really related to this time of the year too.
Side note, because I know you've been here a long time, as have I. Do you remember the 2018 when everyone was blaming where we were in the market cycle on Chinese New Year? They were like, "Oh yeah, people are out of the market. They're taking their funding out. That's why Bitcoin and the altcoins are dipping right here. It's Chinese New
Yeah,
Year." I'm glad that narrative's gone, but that was prevalent at that time.
yeah, absolutely. I remember that. Yeah, nothing changes. So yeah, I will not spend too much time on everything, but yeah, you can find the detail of all the influencers that supported them, on what they asked to do, on when they publish their things, the timing before the sale. So yeah, all these different things and a couple of screenshots about what they did. One small thing that I found really funny is that one of the projects, one of the influencers, he advertised about Moonbox, and so the real Moonbox, that was the Twitter nickname, which is basically empty right now. Everyone advertised about the real Moonbox, and there is no one following the real Moonbox. There is something weird. But they used this logo, Moonbox. Do you remember where you've seen this X before?
It looks familiar.
Yeah, it does. Let me show you. You definitely know. Don't move. I will get that to you. Uh, Sorry, just one sec. Okay, you ready?
Like I had some guesses that I just didn't want to say and embarrass myself. So, oh, I saw SpaceX. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a guess. I don't know, to be honest. But when I saw that, and I've seen a couple of posts using this Moonbox logo, I was like, but that's the SpaceX logo, guys. You cannot do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know exactly what happened, but Moonbox and all the communication around the real Moonbox is basically redirecting to a Twitter account, which is basically empty right now. Weird. Social media, nothing super interesting to say here, just that they most likely add bots on Twitter. I don't know how much, but yeah, they obviously have bots, um, which is quite common. Yeah, we can mention that it's quite surprising that they have not used WeChat or KakaoTalk or these channels that are really popular in China and in
Hmm.
Asia more globally.
That is strange.
Yeah, I don't know. We looked for it, but we haven't found anything. Um, about the golden cards. So, as I said, they issued these kind of cards, physical cards, with basically a signature of Stephen Chow. You had a date, yeah, a date, a little small heart, and a signature of Stephen Chow. So that was quite nice. Honestly, they look good. I would love to get one. And from what we've seen, we probably had a reach of about 30 to 50 million through all these influencers. So many of them had a massive community. So including some like the CEO of 9gag and Mimland, and a lot of other actors that I don't know of, to be honest. And the funny thing is that for every post on Instagram by these influencers, oh, sorry, I broke that. They shared. Okay, they broke the link. That's weird. Okay, let me. Okay, so that's basically post that happened on Instagram usually, and they shared that on Twitter
Like an
after that.
unboxing. Yeah.
Exactly, just look at that. Like, hey, I received this, and just look at this nice box and blah blah blah. So it's really funny. I mean, I haven't seen that much in terms of marketing campaign. Just look at this; it looks really good. Anyway, so that's I would say the core of the marketing campaign was here.
Right. And then, they had their partners as well that would give mention. And the partners thing is interesting to me because if I was on the outside looking in about a project and I saw you partnering with Animoca, investment from OKX, I'm thinking
Yeah.
this thing's going to do numbers, right? Like this is this
Yes.
is this is probably something that will succeed. And whether I'm interested in the IP or not, I would be paying attention to it because with
Mhm.
that much push, it definitely has a lot of visibility in the market.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just look at that. I mean, Mocaverse, Memeland, these are really, really famous NFT projects. So they had the support of these guys. And I've been quite surprised that for some of these, I just don't know them at all. Like CyberConnect, to be honest, I've never heard about them before. But they are big, they are really big. Weirdo Ghost Gang, I don't know this one either. Yeah, some of these projects, I'm like, okay, I don't know you, but you are big.
Hmm.
Then just doing interesting thing after that were really interesting. The first one is that they had an AMA. The AMA was on Twitter and then published on YouTube. Funny thing that says a lot about the project is that they the AMA was not in English. It was in Chinese, and there is no translation at all. So that's a good signal that they were absolutely not targeting the Western audience.
Not even an attempt to bridge.
No, absolutely
Wow.
not.
Yeah.
And they had the CEO of 9gag, they had some people from OKX, and like really big guys, and Stephen Chu himself during the AMA. Absolutely no translation, nothing.
Yeah,
But you
and
can,
that I feel like that was intentional, right? Because if you're working with Meme Land, and obviously those guys do great here in the West as well, and 9gag, so they chose and said this is where we're going to focus. We're not even
Mhm.
going to put our resources towards the West.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that's okay. I would say okay. That's a decision they had to not focus on Western countries, but it worked. And the second thing is that as Memeland was supporting the project. The CEO of 9gag was on the AMA, and he bought. I've checked. He has not received anything. He was not part of a whitelist. He just bought one of the NFTs for basically 30 times more than the average, than the floor price. So he paid a super massive premium to get an NFT on the secondary market because they knew that for such price there would be some press coverage,
Hmm.
which
And
is
was that
smart.
like I mean, was there some kind of, did they care to try to justify it, like making him buy an ultra rare or something, or was it just like some common that he liked and he paid 30 times the floor?
No, it was an exclusive one. It was like quite a rare one, but
Right,
it
right,
nothing was
right,
sold that price. There was no precedent, so it was
right,
just paying a crazy price.
right. An orchestrated move, right, to get headlines.
Obviously, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's part of all the small dots that made that basically a really good launch. But then, so let's look at the market itself. First thing, we we thought that their global mechanism was to create frustration and to push people from the from the raffle that has not been picked to go on the secondary market. And that's more or less what happened. So 9,000 wallets on the whitelist. Most of them, like really almost everyone, made the deposit, which is honestly super impressive. Almost everyone on the whitelist made the deposit.
And that deposit was about 500 USD, if I recall.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
0.2 if something like that, 0.1. Nothing
Oh,
crazy.
you don't have to flex on me, like do the math in your head, Zoop. Like I'm giving a rough numbers. I can look too. I'm not calculating it. I'm looking here. It was $513 per person. Wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah.
Stunting on me over there. The jacket. Now you're doing the mental math. I get it. You're Giga Brain. Okay, so all those people deposited, impressive, and that
Yeah.
was even, and they were over allocated too.
So no other allocation on the whitelist, which is really surprising, to be honest. But I mean,
Okay.
yeah. Then, because usually when you do over allocation on the whitelist plus a public sale, usually you get a massive bash because there is no interest in making a public sale. So it's
Right.
more like we do no over allocation on the whitelist and then we open to the public. So
The
they, sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
really, really quick on that. The thesis, so the thesis for projects to do an over allocation on the whitelist is they're concerned that not everyone that reserves on the whitelist will go ahead and buy, right? And they want to ensure a sellout. Is that's the logic, I would assume, right?
Absolutely.
And so
It's
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this because they intentionally did the reverse, right? They said we're going to leave some. We could over allocate it. We're going to leave some. And it
yeah.
looks like they tried to use that to really ramp up the FOMO. But I'm projecting here. I don't know. You tell me.
Um, no, I think that, I mean, from what I've seen some projects doing exactly this. Like we do over allocation and then we do public sale. But honestly, the community is so upset after that. Like, hey guys, I mean, I've been spending time and I've been waiting for potentially the public sale, and you over allocated the whitelist. So I mean, are you really trying to secure yourself that much? If you don't do that and you just have a massive marketing with a massive reach, it's definitely way better to have just this kind of whitelist with no over allocation, where all the whitelists are real true VIPs, and then there's a chance for the public. And a real chance. It's nothing like, hey, maybe if we have some sort of remaining supply, you will get something. So I think it's honestly it's the way to go. It's quite smart, to be honest, to do that because they knew they had the security. They probably knew with some metrics they had that the momentum was here.
Oh yeah, and I forgot in my whole thesis there that people had to prepay. Like you sign up for this whitelist, your funds
Yes,
are there, right? That's different than
absolutely.
someone prospectively saying, "Hey, I probably will mint this." That, and so
Yeah,
I can understand why this. So 9,000 is impressive. That's a committed number of people that said, "Here's my money. Go ahead, take it."
exactly. So that was the size of the whitelist, which and I think, I mean, no, let's be honest. There was a little bit of allocation because they only had 9,500, but they put 15 more for some reason. I don't know why, and only 9,000 of them really actually deposited funds. So we have a results of 8.9 thousand wallets from the whitelist that made a deposit, and 7,300 from public wallets, so non-whitelisted wallets, that made a deposit too. So do the math, that I will do right after. It's about like 8.3, something like that, 8.1.
Wow.
It's a lot. It's a lot of money. 8.3 million raised, and it's something like 2 days, 48 hours, 8.3 million have been deposited.
Crazy, and then there was robust secondary action too, right?
Yes. But the funny thing, and that's where I've been surprised, is that I was expecting that all the people, because only 6% was available for the public, so 506 assets for 7,000 wallets. So you know that a lot of people will not get it. It's something like
Hmm.
10% will get something. So I was expecting them to basically jump on the secondary market and buy something. No, only 15% of people that have not won the raffle, that deposited something and not won the raffle, only 15% of them, by the way, it should be the other way, sorry, this should be green. But yeah, only 15% jump on the secondary market, which is not that much, honestly.
And was that because of a price difference versus mint? I
Um,
wonder what were the drivers there.
I don't know. I think there is something like, okay, I've not been early enough. No, it's too late. It's not for me. It was not for this time. I think there's a little bit of that.
Yeah. Or it could have been speculative buyers that wanted to buy to then take it to the market and sell. And then they're saying, I'm not going to get in at that basis, that cost basis. So now I'm not interested.
Yeah, and absolutely. There is another metric that I will show you right after. Sorry, we are already a bit late, but another metric which is super interesting about that could explain this is the amount of dumpers. So I will go straight to it. So yeah, that's basically 8.3 million. As you can see, the bulk has been done in just a couple of hours. Most of the deposit have been made like in these 2 hours. They already knew after 2 hours of deposits that they sold out, which is
Wow.
really impressive. So let's go directly to the super interesting metrics. So definitely people made money, a lot of money, 10 million recorded total profit with about like 3,000 suspicious sales. So let's get sorry to the really interesting part. Selling pressure. We had seen a super massive selling pressure day one. And the reflect of that is this. The drop receivers, people that are wallets that received an NFT from the primary market, 70% of them dumped everything within 2 weeks. They resold everything they got. Only 25% hold. 3% were traders, so they bought and sold, but they have not sold everything. And 2% only were collectors that just accumulated more assets. 70%.
I wonder, and I don't know if you have this or if this is something you probably have planned to try to benchmark, because I wonder how this would compare to, if you took and you named us whatever NFT drop, it could be recent, it could be older, and how that profile of wallets would break down, how many people reaccumulated, how many people quickly sold, and how different it would be, right? Because then I guess you could compare and say, hey, this drop was, and however you want to characterize it.
Yeah.
But
That's
what's your feeling?
done.
What's your feeling? Is this pretty in line what you would typically see, or is this a lot more to the sell side? So it talks to more speculators that were trying to make a profit.
I would say it's basically in line with what we see today, which is honestly not a good sign for the health of NFTs, let's be frank. But, I think this is deeply related to what we've seen in terms of utility. As you don't have anything like a clear value proposition, because I've seen people on Persona. I don't have these figures about Persona, but I've heard a lot of people being like, oh, I like the plan, I like the concept, I like the value proposition. Same for the Black Mirror drop, which is really interesting. And as I will definitely spend some time analyzing Black Mirror. But for this, I feel like as it's like quite vague, there is not much reason to really hold long term. It's like it's Stephen Chow. There's a lot of influence. Let's make my money right now.
Hmm.
See what I mean?
Interesting. So you're telling me you don't have yours anymore?
I never get
Yeah.
any.
Yeah, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I missed it. And on the secondary market, it's a bit different. So on the secondary market, so it's split between dumpers, traders, and collectors. So most of the collectors, people that accumulated NFTs but haven't sold anything, it's 40%. We have 20% about more or less of traders, and still 42% of people that arrived on the secondary market that bought something during these first 2 weeks, they bought and then dumped everything.
I wonder if that that community or community see it subconsciously came out there already. The collector's number there. I wonder if that would correlate to community activity or strength or something else there, because you would think that more holders that bought not for speculative reasons would talk to more genuine interest in the project and what they're doing.
Yeah, maybe at some point we are hitting the the edge of what we can see in terms of data and of hypothesis, because this is really like psychological decryption of human behavior. I'm not sure that why we see these figures, but my main takeaway here is, gosh, people really don't hold to their assets. If they can get rid of them, they will, definitely.
Yeah. It makes me
Mm.
wish, and I don't know that it exists yet, but something that would be similar to, I know in retail and the CPG industry, for example, there's panel data. Obviously, you can see
Oh, yeah.
sales metrics, right? But panel data
Yeah.
would send out a survey, and you have a certain number. So you have 1,000 or 10,000 people, and you get, questions. Why did you do this? Why did you do
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
And
yeah.
things that
Absolutely.
are adjacent to the actual transaction. That
Uh-huh.
would be interesting to see. But I would think, yeah, I'm not the analytics gigabrain here doing stuff in my head, flexing in a coat. But I would think that collector's number could correlate to community. I'm going to keep an eye on that one.
Yeah. Um, yeah, definitely. I will definitely check out what happens next time. I'm really curious about this kind of community behavior.
Right.
The one last thing, because I know we are really late, the one last thing I want to share with you is about, like, potential market manipulation, let's say. I cannot tell you if the project has intentionally manipulated the market, but we've seen some really, really suspicious things. These three wallets were the top buyers. This one bought 920 NFTs, this one bought 520, and this one bought 893. First thing, you can see something really curious. They have negative supply. So what does it mean? Is that every time they get a negative supply, they've sold NFTs they haven't bought. So they receive, for example, in that case, he receives something like 100 NFTs that he has not bought. So some have been transferred from this wallet orange to this green wallet. And they basically buy things, or other wallets have bought NFTs and transfer to the green one that sell. And then he buys a lot. And then he
Hmm.
sells and get back to zero. And sometimes he receives like 50 NFTs and it's sold it right away. This, and if you look at that, it's super interesting to see that they had basically the activity in at the same time, but different kind of activity. So like buying a lot, buying a lot, buying a lot, then going to zero. And when this one is active, the other one is active. Is when a green is active, orange is active, and vice versa. This blue is what we call floor sweep or sweep, and as well just supporting the floor. They really supported the floor a lot, and that's probably why we have seen this kind of secondary market activity. This wallet bought in total 920 NFTs, which is more or less 10% of the whole supply, and he never sold anything, never. Keep buying and buying and buying. He has done nothing else except just buying.
Wow. I would like to point out something. If you could zoom a little bit there where your cursor was, just
Oh, yeah.
nope, nope. Go back to where you see those two spikes
Oh,
that
yeah.
were, there was some supply change. You could, yep,
Yeah.
and scroll up a little bit. You'll
Mhm.
see that. So obviously that's a manipulation, right? They said here's some NFTs, and then the other wallet would buy a ton of them, sweep the floor,
Yes.
and then the inverse happens. But when they do that, they are doing that after the floor price stabilized and did not move. Then they do that, and you see the escalation in floor price again. You don't
Yes.
see that activity again until when? Until that floor price flatlines once again a little bit
Yes.
further up there, and then you
So
see the activity come back in.
that's the price. That's the actual average price of the NFT. So you can see that. So that's curious because we haven't seen like anything right now. For example, you see that the price started to decrease. So it pumps a lot. Everyone is pumping. Okay, they did their job. Then it started to decrease gradually until that point. And it really looked like they tried their best to pump, to just keep it alive. And if you consider that these wallets were not doing these things, the secondary market will probably have gone like maybe to one, and not even sure, and go down to zero point 0.1 right away. That's probably what we have seen. And this kind of small trials, gradual decrease is, in my opinion, thanks to the support of these guys.
Hmm.
This is the Stephen Shaw purchase, by the way, we speak.
Okay.
No, sorry, the 9gag CO purchase, excuse me.
Okay. So he's a real outlier there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, interesting to see, them driving some of the activity there. And I don't think there's anything surprising that they would have
Yes.
vested interest to do it. But sometimes sending it to alt wallets, people don't have full understanding. Like maybe there's not that kind of demand in the market for people to keep sweeping. So
Yeah. That at the end of the day, it looks like if you want to have this kind of activity, like 13,000 if in 2 weeks and so on, blah, 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 you have to have this kind of market support. And yeah, I will not enter into too much details, but about the top winners and top losers, we've seen a lot of really suspicious things. A lot of these wallets have been emptied completely. Some are, for example, wallet 1 and wallet 2 are like extremely super mega suspicious. They have been doing business together, like really buying and selling the same thing. Some assets have been circulated 3 times between wallet 1 and wallet 2.
interesting. Man, I'm looking at as you're showing this, and unfortunately, we're just about out of time here.
Oh yeah, sorry.
There's so much data that you guys put in. I'm gonna share some of my screen as well. Like some of these analytics are super dope and stuff I've never really seen before when it looks at the pattern and correlation. And I really like the way that you laid it out visually. Like this is a really cool tool.
No, thanks.
I'm looking forward to seeing what else you guys do for your next deep dive. And speaking of which, that's one of the questions. Unfortunately, I got a bunch of questions from the community that we didn't have an opportunity to get to. I may have to ask you, Zoup, and see if we can
Sure.
put something on the Discord, or maybe I'll save some of them for the next one. But one of the question was, can you give us a sneak peek or an idea of what some of your other deep dives you're doing are? What can they look forward to next?
So yeah, sure. So the next deep dive will be about. So we are looking right now at some massive trends in generative art because we've been asked a lot about what's going on in the art market lately. So we'll be publishing something about generative art. We would like to publish something about the rise of pudgy penguins, like what happened and why they did so well. On the other end, we have a lot of ideas. I would love maybe in a couple of weeks, maybe a month, we'll probably be publishing something about the drop of Black Mirror.
Okay.
That's what on the table.
Yeah, a deep dive on Pudgies and what they've done. I know there's been a lot of top line stuff, but that would be dope. But Black Mirror, I think you mentioned Persona, you're eyeballing too, and the Gen Art thing. That's a wide breadth. So looking forward to checking those out. I gotta tell you, Zoup, I feel like you lucked out and you got spared because they got me some hard questions for you this week. So I'm definitely gonna keep these in the stash for next one. So I'll leave you with one brief question.
Yeah.
And we'll just give a succinct answer. If you had to pull one thing out of the learnings here for creators, for people releasing NFTs or projects, one key thing to learn here from it, whether it's regards to marketing or approaching the Asian market, whatever, what would that one key thing be?
Is that in February 2024, you cannot launch an NFT or you cannot sell out 10K without a lot of influence. And if you want to be successful, you should focus the Asian market rather than the traditional Western market.
And I know the follow-up question that they would have would be, how do they do that? And so they'll have to just check the report. It's a free download. Go to NFT18. You can get a lot of inferences there. I would say take it and fit it to your scale. One thing, if you're a collector, what's the one thing a collector can take from this and just have in their head as they approach the market right now and going forward?
As a collector, honestly, I would say this is probably a little bit less of interest to you because you will not, I hope, as a collector, you will not be only chasing a project hyped by influencers, but you will be chasing something that makes sense to you, that resonates with you. So I would say that if you see this kind of approach with maybe too much of influencers getting into it and so on. Yeah, I mean, you can enter, but you probably know that the value is mostly based on the network and influence rather than on the actual asset value. That's precisely the case of Nobody.
Right. And something that we all know in here, but definitely worth a reminder. We saw it in action, them coming in with the wallets, them going heavy with the influencers. And right now, just on the drive to nowhere, right? Ambiguity. But who knows? They may turn it around. I'm sure you'll have a follow-up to anything that you study, because I know you're deep in the
Yeah.
numbers like that, Zoup. So looking forward to that, looking forward to the new stuff, and especially looking forward to grilling you over the market dynamics when we talk again in a few weeks, because we got some hard questions for you, my man. Thank you. It's
Thanks.
been a pleasure as always.
Thank you so much. And for everyone that had a question, I'm sorry we had no time to handle them, but feel free to reach out to me directly on Discord. I will just drop a message. Feel free to ask me, and I will be more than happy to answer every question you may have.
So dope. Thank you so much, Zoup. Have a good one.
Thank you so much.